Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. In the first of the series, we've got Ashley from Fenestra with us. Ashley, thank you very much for joining.
Gareth, hi, nice to see you. Excited about this discussion.
Yeah, great to have you on. Great to have you on. We've been doing a little bit of work with Fenestra, and so I know a little bit about your journey and how the company got started. But for the audience, did you want to tell us about your journey behind founding Fenestra?
Yeah, of course. So I sometimes think when you start things, they're always just natural conclusions to your journey, really. So I actually started in 1988 as a media buyer, media planning and buying. So this is a long time ago, back in the day when there were like 12 radio stations and 12 TV newspapers and 4 TV stations. I went off to college and then I rejoined the media buying industry and worked for Cara, now part of Dentsu, though in 1990 it was part of something called Aegis. And so sort of grounded in media planning and buying and the advertising industry. I'm sure all your listeners will be familiar with that. And then decided at the age of about 24, I decided I knew absolutely everything there was to know about media planning and buying. And so I sort of joined 2 other guys in a new venture called entertainment marketing. I was just a new kid on the block at that time. My bit went really badly, didn't work. And I sold my 10% of that company back to those 2 other founders for £10,000, which I got to tell you, when I was 25, was a vast amount of money. And I thought I'd done really well. They actually turned that company, entertainment marketing, into ASOS.com. And so the single worst career move I ever made was leaving that company. And Nick and Quentin went on to make a fabulous success of it. And ASOS is now one of the biggest fashion, I suppose, e-com companies in the world. Anyway, I went off into commercial radio, ran radio stations for several years on the sales side of it, actually. And then again, sort of hankered to do my own thing. We're now sort of in the early 2000s, 2004. And I founded something at the start was called My Video Rights. And then after about 18 months, didn't like that name and our core proposition to change. And so changed it to something called Base 79. Base 79 was an MCN, a multi-channel network. So we helped content owners around the YouTube ecosystem. We helped content owners protect through the use of content ID and monetize their valuable IP rights. And this sounds old hat now, but in 2007, 8, it was in the end, it was all very novel. And so I founded that company thinking that the likes of Endemol and the Football Association and Ministry of Sound would all need help sort of in this new world of YouTube. And that went very well. We were venture backed, and I moved to the States for a few years, and then in the end sold Base 79 to a listed business called Rightster, which I ended up running. So I ran a name listed company for a couple of years, and then left that to found Fenestra, which is the company obviously that we're working with Audience Store on, and I run today.
That's quite the journey. I think it's interesting how you say, like, when you first started out in media buying, there was only a few media owners. I think that's been the real change in the market, hasn't it? Like the proliferation of all the different options in terms of media, and like that's been enabled massively by digital.
Oh yeah, and it's the opening up of the distribution channel, right? When you run radio stations, the reason why you invest so much and you buy radio stations is because you have a license to a piece of spectrum. I mean, the underlying value is the spectrum. It's not the audience. It's not the advertising sales team. It's the spectrum. Why? Because the government controls it, and they only give it to one company every 8 years. Of course, and so, why is ITV so valuable? ITV is valuable not really because it has Coronation Street. I'm sure someone from ITV is going to shoot me for this, but because they actually control the spectrum, and every 20 years or so they rebid for it. Government tends to give it to good operators, but they rebid. And all that changed with digital. And now, the campaigns that your organization runs uses tens of thousands of domains, thousands of apps, whether they're English or not, it doesn't matter. And then obviously audience targeting, optimizes that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that leads us on to nicely, because that's what Fenestra sort of help us out with, how the platform works. So if you could just tell us a bit about the platform and how does it help clients?
Yeah, for sure. So Fenestra provides an independent, customizable platform So independent being, we don't have any commercial or corporate connections with any underlying DSPs. We provide a platform that our clients use to analyze, optimize, and then report on their programmatic and now sort of entire biddable media activity. So we deliver that value by running all the data pipelines for our clients. So we ingest all of their data from all of their DSPs, retail media networks, social platforms. We analyze that and put that in one analytics platform. And then they use that to discover valuable insights and optimizations. And then we connect our platform back to the DSPs using write APIs and build custom algorithms to automatically enact any optimizations that we see within the delivery of a campaign.
Amazing, yeah. So that's effectively bringing that fragmentation together into one place in terms of reporting on media campaigns and programmatic specifically for clients.
Yeah. And we think it's really important, for our philosophy, and and this has developed over time. Actually, working with campaign managers and traders, not the C-suite. It's the guys and gals doing the doing, hands on keyboards, And our insight really was that you have to connect analytics with optimization. Analytics for us is value discovery, but the actual automated bidding is the value delivery. Every organization is awash with dashboards now that no one looks at and no one really gets any value from, and in programmatic in particular, as you know well, this moves so quickly that we think you need machines to unlock that value rather than a human being logging into the DSP once a week, trying to find something out and then, going back into the DSP itself, putting an exclusion list on or something like that. It's a far more sophisticated task and it moves too quickly.
Definitely, and I think it's interesting. You kind of have to be with the media traders, with the people with their hands on keyboards, like you say, to really understand the processes that they go through to make sure that you can actually build something that adds value for clients like that. But I mean, in terms of the key features that you mentioned, you think obviously the analytics part, and then there is the optimization part. But what are the key sort of granular features that make Fenestra stand out?
Yeah, cross-platform analytics. So we ingest data from any DSP. We have connectors with every tier one DSP now: DV360, the Trade Desk, Adforms, and Infilion, MediaMath, as was. Obviously, Google Ads as well, which brings in YouTube via DV360 or Google Ads. We've just done Meta, and TikTok is on our roadmap for this quarter. So it's really any platform, and we present that in. We're doing all the data normalization, all the mapping. So that all comes as part of our relationship with our clients. And then, as I say, we connect that back using custom algorithms so that if a client wants us to, they can log in and find these valuable insights, or they can use the macro insight. So we think of macro and micro. Macro is an insight perhaps generated across multiple campaign types or strategies across meaningful periods of time. But the micro is, what supply chain am I using for this to buy this particular domain? They can use our custom algorithms to do micro optimizations. And then the final piece is, which we launched now about 9 months ago. So certainly 6 months ago. We started 9 months ago. Is our automated reporting platform. We call that Chat FST. So another pain point, a big pain point for our users is literally reporting back to their stakeholders. Now that can be in an agency, that can mean back to their client, the advertiser, or in a situation where an advertiser's in-house programmatic activation, it can be to their internal stakeholders, that their business owners, their country managers, whatever it is. And so we launched Chat FST, and this uses multimodal LLMs and agentic AI to create PowerPoint presentations, to create insight decks. The core products we call PCA, post-campaign analysis. The bane of every campaign manager's life is creating a PCA at the end of the campaign. And typically that task of writing that presentation, which tells us, did we hit our goals and what did we learn? What works, what didn't work, what are we going to change for next time? This sort of going into different systems, the DSPs, the ad servers, creative management systems. This can take a day, can be a bit more, day and a half of someone's time, and then it obviously needs approvals before it gets distributed to the client. We can generate a PCA in about 8 minutes currently. And we can do that because we have all of the data flowing into our systems from source. We can analyze it, we can parse it, and we have the technology to pass it around various LLMs and use those LLMs for the things they're good at, and use different LLMs for things they're not good at. This is saving our clients, the fabled 90% of their work effort solving that pain point. So these are very unique things, and it's the combination of this suite of products that we think solves a big problem for a campaign manager.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say, as somebody who spent years of their life running PCRs, I can see that the software is super useful. I mean, if you can cut that time down even a little bit, it's beneficial. But to have it down to 90 minutes I think you said 90 minutes.
9 minutes. So it's about
9 minutes.
Like a
Jesus.
98% saving on the average person's time.
Yeah, amazing. So I mean that's got to add huge value, because that's a huge cost center for any business that's running reports, right? And then so you say that's saving. It's got the time down to 9 minutes for PCR. So I mean that's really impressive. But so could you tell us about any of the experience of clients who are using the platform, and any performance data other than that you can share?
Yeah, look, we got different types of two main user types. That this is agencies who obviously advertisers have outsourced their work to, and actually then advertisers of in-house. In that second bucket, we work with a bunch of advertisers like Deutsche Telekom, but Kindred as well in the UK, across Europe. Actually, now they're owned by a French company, but were originally a Scandinavian company. Kindred have brands in the UK like Unibet and 32 Red. They in-house their programmatic activation a while back. They've got a fantastic team there, and really they use Fenestra as their source of truth in their programmatic activity. That we ingest all of their data. Their teams use us on a daily basis for analytics. They're extremely experienced traders, all former agency folk. And they have this single source of truth that they can use for analytics. They track all their activity. They have a very deep understanding as a consequence of their performance, in particular supply path performance, PMP performance. We have different analytics around open market versus PMP, and then different channels, obviously, be it mobile or desktop or CTV or whatever it is. And they're now using our algorithms to help them automate these insights. And then we have, probably shouldn't mention names, but we work with some agency holding groups who use us for different things. But there's getting a lot of traction around this generative AI platform, ChatFST, the reporting piece. It all is built on that foundation, of course, of ingesting all of the data, organizing that data, ensuring it's cross compatible and comparable. And then the reporting is, saving, as you just said, all that time where they have, the agencies have vast resources tied up in this laborious, error-prone work that actually, is a major, personal pain point as they develop their teams. Basically, no one likes doing this work. And it's a good learning place. It's a really good place to learn. But actually, does a 22-year-old or 24-year-old, if I can take the analogy, want to be doing this work, or actually shouldn't they be starting to focus on more strategic upstream work? So they use us for that. What is interesting is that, of course, in our products, we have baked in hundreds of years of programmatic experience. So when you run our insights presentations, it makes recommendations based on all of that experience, and will help a trader, for example, understand that a 320 by 50 isn't a 320 by 50, but it's actually a mobile banner, because pixel dimensions don't mean much to human beings, especially clients, if you're writing presentations. But if you tell them if it's an MPU or a skyscraper, and this brings it to life for them. And all of this stuff is obviously built into our presentations and products. So different clients have different use cases. Some buy and use everything. Some prefer just the optimization, which is the real expression of value. Algorithmic bidding. And principally that is just about reducing whatever metric and improving outcomes, really. So it varies by customer, but most customers buy at least two of those products from us.
I was going to say, yes, it seems that there's like two areas you can add value. There's one in reducing that time, i.e., to produce PCRs and get insights. So that's sort of improving the efficiency. But then also there's the optimization, which is improving the actual performance of campaigns and leveraging those insights.
Yeah, I mean, we started. We talk about efficiency and effectiveness. So effectiveness, you nailed it, is about just getting better results. Reduce my CPA, improve my click-through rate, reduce my CPC, improve my attention scores, my viewability scores, my CPVMs, whatever metric is, it doesn't really matter for us. And then efficiency is the time-saving component. And we take care, and this is, as I say, this has been developed with clients. We take care. You don't have to worry about the technical account management of your DSPs. We've got that. As I know you guys know, DV360 reporting will crash almost every day for some reason or another. Someone's got to take care of that, right? And we do all of that. And so, you take those sort of rather tedious pain points away. Everyone saves time. We then automate it for you, and now we do the reporting as well. And it frees up massive resources to allow these subject matter experts to focus on strategic and upstream work with their clients or interns.
That's it. I think, obviously we used to have execs, they were there running the reports every day. I think you mentioned there is some value in that potentially for the execs, because they get to know the numbers, they get to understand campaigns more deeply, in my opinion. But I think you're right. There's other ways of them achieving that within the industry. They don't necessarily have to be sat there running those reports. And the quicker you can get them to where they need to be to add value, like you say, upstream, and the insight side of things, then the better. And if reporting maybe could be hampering that, even because they're spending so much time running huge Excels, which, like you say, are breaking, and it's eating up a lot of their time. Then there's efficiency there in getting people to where you need them to be quicker, by applying technology to the processes. And obviously, you mentioned Chat FST there. So that's your sort of AI offering. I know there's inherently sort of a bit of ML, machine learning in the optimization piece anyway. So you guys sort of have that heritage and understanding of AI. So when you're looking at the market then, so what's the quickest win for clients wanting to implement AI in this space?
Well, the quickest thing is to sign a contract with Fenestra, obviously. But if someone wanted to do it themselves, our experience is, I think you can burn a lot of time, and time is money, chasing some really novel, funky stuff. Actually, what we do is we solve boring problems that have real world use cases. So the PCA, right? The PCA is not a sexy story. I mean, it's not. There's far more sexier things to talk about in terms of the application of LLMs than PCAs, but it is a real pain point. So our advice would be, focus on real world use cases, focus on pain points, probably those ones that are, are laborious and repetitive and error prone. That's the place where you can have massive effects. Real world value can be created. And I would also say persevere. This stuff, we all use ChatGPT or something similar now, and we expect to be able to transpose that into our businesses and go, wow, this is amazing. And, have our worlds, revolutionized so that we don't have to do any work anymore, and yet we can still get paid. but the reality is, it just doesn't work that like that. And I can tell you, for example, do not use one small bit of advice is don't use LLMs for analytics. I mean, it sounds great. Pass a load of data into ChatGPT and it's just going to give you all the answers. That sounds great. But actually, LLMs are built with to deliberately hallucinate, and they will deliberately make things up. And if you're writing a fantasy novel about two fairies falling in love, that's great. You want your AI to bring this world to life in this new future land. But if you're trying to identify savings that flow into budgets that a campaign manager might build into their strategies, you don't want it making stuff up. And it literally, not only will they make things up, but they will make things up that are extraordinarily compelling and believable. And actually, you need to go and validate the data. So persevere, keep it simple, and therefore, because of the need for perseverance and time, focus on things that are going to generate you value.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting how you say, AIs are designed to hallucinate. Obviously, they're probabilistic models rather than deterministic, right? So, I guess they're. Do you think they'll always have that issue, or do you think that there's potentially? I know it doesn't necessarily have to be an LLM. It could be like a future version of a different sort of model. But do you think there's a place where AI gets to where it can be useful for those sorts of things?
Well, so we're lucky at Fenestra. My colleague Javier Campos, who's our CIO, is a recognized published author on AI, and if you were and does a lot of research into AI, is doing a big project at the moment into security. And if you were to ask Javier, he would say that LLMs cannot handle this analytics requirement. They have an axiomatic problem.
Right.
Now, we have looked at what I think have been called, there's a body of work around what's called quantitative language models, QLMs, if you want another acronym. There have been a few startups around that. I'd probably say they haven't made it. And so I think I'd probably defer to Javier's opinion on this, which is there is an underlying technical problem with LLMs. As currently as the computer science behind it makes it very, very hard. So in our architecture, we use agents to move between different systems, and we still do a lot of the analytics heavy lifting inside traditional cloud technologies like BigQuery and so on. But they have a massive benefit in terms of their ability to describe and then create narratives around and human readable prose, which is the sorts of things we currently use them for.
Definitely. So on that, then you mentioned a different model, but I mean, in terms of how AI is on course at the moment, how do you think it's going to change the industry over the next couple of years?
Well, it's if I knew that, I wouldn't be on your podcast, Gareth. I think you have to start with consumer behavior. You really are talking about a new paradigm, aren't you? Here, and so if you start with consumer behavior, and if I take my behavior and the people I know, and we're early adopters probably in the great scheme of things, but I think you're talking about absolute root and branch revolution. In my opinion, I think you haven't seen anything like this since Google published a URL with a single box on it. Of course, you got to go. People, there's the old people overestimate the short term and underestimate the long term. But the rate of technology adoption is growing exponentially at the moment. So, I think you're talking about root and branch changes in consumer behavior. I think in terms of therefore in our industry, for me, the two big areas that I think about is which opens a massive opportunity, by the way. But the two big areas, I think, search is going to get destroyed in its current structure. and I think you're starting to see that already. Google is an extraordinary organization and will mitigate that for a period of time. That's not Google, is it? We'll mitigate that for a
I'm
period
knocking.
of time, but they've got it coming both ways, because not only have you got this new consumer paradigm that they don't control, but you've also got regulators opening up their distribution channels. So, I think search is going to get hurt. And as a consequence, thinking again of consumer behavior, I am massively worried about what are currently known as quality digital publishers. They now, number one, get close to, well, not no referral traffic, but very little referral traffic out of social networks. I read recently referral traffic from Facebook is down 50% year on year. Google's doing the same in markets where they don't play ball. And we as consumers are going to get our answers, and answers will become information, and information will become entertainment inside these curated experiences that the LLMs are currently giving us, as long as we trust them. And I massively worry, if I was an ad-funded publisher today, and certainly we have a number in the UK, digital publisher, I would be worried, and I would be looking to build pay and subscriber models as quickly as I possibly could, because the source of your traffic is only going in one direction, and that will probably accelerate. So I think there are two short-term impacts. On the flip side, of course, you'll build a whole new marketing industry around LLMs, and you're starting to see startups doing that now, about how do you market your product to an LLM, to get an LLM to ingest and reflect accurately your marketing messages, as opposed to its own, to your point, probabilistic opinion as to what it is forecasting as to what it should be. So you're starting to see that now, and so that's going to generate a whole area of innovation, a whole area of value creation. But I think the last 20 years have been very stable, relatively speaking, and I think you're going to see that change rapidly over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast it changes, isn't it? Because I mean, it was probably 15 years ago, that search was still growing massively, and it was taking a lot of advertising spend off other channels, and you feel like potentially that's sort of now peaked, and search is sort of on the chopping block already. I think it's interesting you say you're going to have those experiences in LLMs, because you've just seen OpenAI launch Operator, which fundamentally changes the way that you sort of you book holidays
Right.
and plan trips.
Yeah.
Traditionally that was all done through Google, like you say. You'd find your Airbnb, you'd find your things to do, you'd book your flights, all of those things. Now with OpenAI, they're basically making it so that all of that will be done by an agent for
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
using the power of AI and LLMs. And you can just see that sort of coming to more industries and more
Yeah.
industries. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Google do in the face of this, because obviously they've got their models, they've got their sort of AI
Yeah.
offerings.
Oh yeah. I mean,
But it'd be interesting to see how
I'm
they.
sure they're going to be huge. That if I was the CFO of Google, I'd be worried about my share price though. So, you know, share prices, which Google and in America in general, they have structural advantages, because of their source of capital, and which means they can raise very large amounts of capital very cheaply, which gives them a structural advantage against other competitors. And one might assume that as investors start to realize that actually, whilst you're still growing your top line at 10% and your EBITDA at 15%, actually that long-term view isn't going to continue. you'll see investors divest of those investments and chase other higher growth areas, and that may well start to affect some of those strategic decisions. And actually might come along. I mean, why not? It would be an amazing thing to do, but given the amount of antitrust cases going on around the world, you might decide to divest search. If the search business moves into this highly profitable, and will be probably for a decade or more, but highly profitable, but increasingly mature, increasingly quotes low growth business unit, well, you might spin that off, for $750 billion and put it into a different corporate entity and sort of free up your capital structure, to focus on higher growth areas. I don't know. I have the fortune of not, or the misfortune actually of not being involved in those discussions. But it'll be fascinating to see what they do.
So I take it you're not investing in Google then?
I would, if I had any spare cash, I would. That and Bitcoin, but Fenestra is currently taking up all of my time.
Very good. I was just also thinking about other trends. So obviously we've sort of laboured on AI, but in terms of other trends that you're seeing, AI sort of takes up all the headlines at the moment. But is there anything else you're seeing in the space that clients should be aware of?
I think again, thinking about consumer, further ahead in its maturity, but thinking about consumer changes, it's the explosion of CTV is the other big headline for me. That is closer to all of our worlds, right? And currently, you've got mass adoption happening. The platforms, Prime, Amazon Prime, Netflix, they're starting to take advertising, which, roll the clock back 2 years ago, certainly, maybe even less, they weren't. They're starting to connect up the pipes so that in the spring, this happened in the States 9 months ago, but in the UK and various European markets in the spring, you'll be able to buy Netflix impressions via DV360 and the trade desk in the UK. But advertisers need to be careful. There are many problems with CTV. I liken it. Sometimes I think CTV has the worst of the traditional TV trading combined with the worst of digital trading. It is expensive. It has high lead times, and equally the data flows are poor and it's relatively opaque. So advertisers are going to need good partners that they trust, with technologies that enable them to guide them and buy smartly and buy across all of these platforms to minimize, to target their customers, minimize frequency, and to create the returns that they want. So massive opportunities led by consumer changes in their behavior, but I think in CTV, there's still an evolution needs to happen on the technology side.
Very interesting. And is that something that you guys at Fenestra will be working on? So just leading into the next question, what's coming up for you guys in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, because the big DSPs like the Trade Desk and DV360 and Xandr are architected for what's called omni-channel buying. So for us, the channel, whether it's desktop or CTV or outdoor or digital out of home or digital audio, these are just fields in a spreadsheet fundamentally. So because we optimize the DSPs, we optimize these channels already. So we optimize CTV campaigns in various markets in the world today as we speak, automatically. But I do think, we think certainly if you're trying to combine linear, which is where there still remains a very large proportion of audience, and also marketers know it works. They've got a lot of business experience and MMMs, built on linear TV. You got to combine those two things, and that's something where we think is valuable and should exist. The other big thing for us, core business is breadth and depth. So companies like us, so we're going to grow our product suite. So breadth is Obviously, our bread and butter is programmatic, but we started in now growing that into social, and depth will be internationalization. So increasingly working with clients in other markets of the world.
Very good. Yeah. So it seems that you're happy with your product mainly. You're sort of adding more depth to it, but and looking to expand that out now internationally.
Yeah, I mean, the big challenge for a company like us is which direction do you actually head, and which ones don't you? It's always the hard thing. It's like, what are we going to focus on? We like to be guided a lot by our clients. The traders who are doing the doing, and our clients who have a longer vision. When you do these sorts of things, the old adage is, you want to be ahead of the market, but not so far ahead that when you turn around, there's no one there. And you got to be careful. It's sort of brake and accelerator a little bit.
Very good, very good. So just to round up the interview, we're just going to finish with a few quick fire questions. So which is your favourite brand in the space apart from Fenestra?
And obviously Audience Store. You probably got it from our conversation. I struggle to get past Google, if I'm really honest. I think they are an extraordinarily smart organization, and their product development is unbelievable. And so I'm a massive fan of theirs. May not be a popular opinion with some of your listeners, but I am. And then there's a company called Index Exchange, which is an SSP, who I think are very, very good as well. Open, honest, transparent. They've got great products, great outcomes. They produce great results for advertisers.
Awesome. In terms of an individual in the space you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, there is actually. Well, the obvious one I think is there's a guy called Ari Papiro. I don't know whether you've come across Ari. He founded a DSP called Beeswax, sort of in the face of ridiculous competition, and built a great product. He's now the founder and CEO of something called Marketecture, which is like a programmatic and biddable media blog, and now media brand. He's fantastic. He's super smart. He's honest. He's humble. I mean, this is a guy that's done 9-10 figure exits, and he's just a really, really great guy. And there's one other guy actually who I will mention. There's a guy called Jonathan D'Souza Rauto, which hardly anyone will know. He's the programmatic product lead at Kepler. And if you want to track this space, read his blog. His insight into the industry and ability to boil it all down is fabulous. He meets the highly technical with with a more populist touch. Everyone talks about stuff, right? What I've learned about programmatic, it's like building a car. There are millions of people that can drive cars, but there's only a very few people who really can know how they work to the point where they can build them. But there are lots of people that will talk about cars. Programmatic is exactly the same thing. There are thousands of people that will tell you they know programmatic, but Jonathan is one who really does.
Sounds like a good blog to follow. Yeah. I think we'll get the link from you and put it in the show notes if that's okay.
Yeah. I'll send it over later.
Bro. And the number one lesson learned since founding Fenestra, if you had to pick one.
I'll give you two. Number one, clients fear change. They need more education. They need more trusted partners. They need more education, and they're fearful of change. And as a consequence, they move quite slowly, is my experience. And it's largely because they're fearful. And then the second one is, whatever you do, be very careful what conferences you go to. Because there are thousands of conferences, most of which are a complete waste of time, let alone money. There are some good ones where the networking is good, but on the whole, most conferences are just full of people reading press releases and probably car drivers rather than car builders.
Agree. Yeah, I think we've had similar sort of experiences with events and things. It seems to be the industry talking to itself a lot. Is sort of the takeaway. It depends what you want to go there for, right? If you want to, build your brand in the industry and become sort of thought leaders, maybe but potentially if you're
And
looking
you can
for
fill your
more
diary with these things, right?
client
Yeah.
leads,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, brilliant. Ashley, thank you very much for coming on.
Not at all.
Really insightful stuff. And yeah, appreciate your
Thanks for
time.
having me, Gareth. Good to chat.